you.
No problem. Okay. So our swale needs to be 6 inches deep minimum. And our last swale was 10 feet away, the high point. That's a safe distance to do. And so in order to place the high point of the swale, you're going to want to basically you have your 10 feet away from your slab, right? And you're looking for the highest point that would be 10 feet away. So that highest point would obviously be right up here. There's only one good place to put the swale, and that's going to be up in this corner at the highest point. Okay. So for the center line of the swale, we're going to be, we have some leniency, it's the slope of the swale can be between 2 and 10%. So this center line of your swale that you draw can take a few different shapes. It would be a safe bet to come down and hit this 718 contour because that is the lowest, the first contour that is below the slab that does not intersect the slab. So if you went all the way down to 717, that would end up giving you an inefficient and probably less than 2% slope. 718 is like kind of that Goldilocks zone where if you draw a line and you're going to be hugging your slab on this side and then going basically straight downhill on this side. When you go and measure this line, you'll be right around 115, 110, 120 feet. And we know that our high point of our swale is at 721.2 because that's 721.7 minus 6 inches, which is half of a foot. So we know the high point of our sail is at let me write that in blue. We know the high point is at 721.2. And so if we take the DE of 721.2, subtract 718, so we have a DE of 3.2, and then we measure this line that we drew for our center line of our swale, I'm going to estimate that it's 115, then we can figure out if our slope for the swale is between 2 and 10%.
Okay.
So we'll have our slope here. We'll just figure that out really quick. We know our DE is 3.2, and we know our length is, yours will come out, probably, it should come right around 110, 120. So if I take 3.2 and divide it by 115, I get 2.78%, which is in between 2 and 10%. 2.78% slope. So now that will be, you're going to get a different number depending on how long you draw that line. But the general shape of the line will be, like this, where you have, you're just keeping that basically that 10-foot spacing on this side, and then you're going to come straight downhill, allowing a little bit more room to develop these extra contours that we're eventually going to be drawing. So the other side of your swale is essentially going to be the same. This contour line is actually, or this existing topo is pretty symmetrical, and your lines end up being very similar in length. So I'm going to go ahead and just assume that I have the same slope on both sides of my swale, right?
Okay.
Now what we need to do is figure out where all of our contours are going to be crossing our swale. So now we're going to be using that same slope that we just figured out, that 2.78%, and we're going to be figuring out where each contour, each whole number crosses this orange line that I just drew. So we're going to, the first contour that we're going to look for, if we're coming down from 721.2, is going to be 721, right?
Right.
So we'll take our slope formula over L, and we're using our 0.0278 slope, we know our DE is 0.2 because we're going from 721.2 down to 721. And we are looking for the L, which will tell us that distance to the next contour. So just switch these places here. It gives you L equals 0.02 over 0278.
So it's 7.2.
Right, 7.2. So you're just gonna measure 7 feet away from your high point and put your first contour line, and that, or your first dot for the 721 contour. And you should label these dots so you can keep track of them later. And since the other side of our swale is the same thing, we'll just measure the 7 feet down, and that will also be our 721 dot for our contour. Okay. So we need to find where 720 is now. So that'll just be the same slope, 0.0278. Our DE is 1 now, and the length between those is going to be 1 divided by 0.0278, 35.97. And I do believe he wants all the math shown to 2 decimal points. Typically, when you're given information to 2 decimal points, you want to keep all your calculations to at least 2 decimal points. So obviously, when you go to draw it with your ruler, you can round up to the nearest whole number because it's a little hard to draw a fraction of a foot with a scale ruler. But we got our 35.97, so we'll just measure 36 feet away from our 721 dot and put a dot. It's going to be right around here, and we'll put a dot for 720. Okay, same thing on the other side. Or a dot here. Label it. And then 719 is going to be the same distance away because it's still the same 2.97% slope, and we're still going 1 foot down. So we have 719, oops, over here. Same thing on the other side. Okay. 719. And then our contour ends at our swale ends at 718. So that was the last dot that we need to solve for. Okay, so we have our contour dots for our swale. Now we need to figure out where our contour is intersecting our slab. Okay, so we're going to look at each side of the slab now. And we have 720.9 and 721.7. The only whole number between those, 721, right? So we're going to be trying to find 721. And since 721 is a lot closer to 720.9 than it is to 721.7, I'm going to come from this side using the 2% slope. I have my 0.02%. I know my DE is just 0.1 because I'm just coming from 720.9 up to 721. And I'm looking for that L, which is 5. 0.1, just 5. Yeah. It's just that 0.1 divided by 0.02, which equals 5 feet. And so you're going to measure 5 feet away from this corner. And remember which direction we're going in now, because it's only for one side that we're doing this. Measure 5 feet over, and we're going to put our dot for the 721 contour. Right? Same thing, we got to find the 721 contour on this other side. We got 720.2 down here and 721.7 up there. So I'll come from the top. It doesn't matter if you're coming from the top or the bottom. I just use the smaller difference. You just have to keep track of which side you're actually coming from so you don't measure the wrong distance from the wrong side, right? So I'm coming in this direction, going down right now. And I'm going to be using the 3% slope now, 0.03. My DE is, I'm coming from 721.7 down to 721. So my DE is at 0.7. And I'm looking for the distance. Okay,
23.33.
23.3.
Yeah.
23.3 sounds about right. And so we would just measure, sorry, that 2 is bothering me. 23.3. And so you would measure your 23 feet in this direction and put your other 721 dot right here. We'll make sure to label it 721. Okay, and we'll keep on going because we have a 720 on this side and a 720. It's actually closer to this side. And then we also have a 720 over here, right? You guys can,
yeah,
you guys know how to solve for those. 720, make sure to label 720. And if you want, right now, since you know these lines connect, you could go ahead and connect them right now. Because we know that's how the contour is going to work. But we have a couple more dots to draw before we can completely redraw all our contours. So I'll give you a hint. We don't have to worry about this corner. There's no contours coming any closer up here. But down here, we do have to worry about the next contour down. So we're starting at 720.9 and we'll go down to 720. So now we're going to be using the slope, the cross slope of 3 to 1. We can't exceed 3 to 1. And so 3 to 1 when you transform it into percentage, what is that?
Oh, 33.33.
Right, it's 33%. So to figure out these dots now, we're going to be using that 33% slope. And so we got to figure out where 720 is. So we'll use our slope formula. We got it up here, and we know we're at our 0.33 for our slope. The DE is going to be 0.9 because we're coming down from 720.9 to 720. And then we're looking for that L. Right? So that L is just about 3. 2 point something.
2.7.
All right. 2.7. So you'll measure 2.7 feet away from this corner, and it's on both sides. And you'll put your dot there and right there. And those are both for 720. Okay. Okay, we'll come down here, do the same thing for 719. And there is a shortcut. Instead of actually using the 33% slope and doing your DE for this 0.4, what you can do is, we know that a 3 to 1 slope is 3 feet of run over 1 foot of rise. So in order to get a full contour line, you need to go 3 feet, right? So we know that if we are maintaining a 3 to 1 slope, our contour lines are going to be 3 feet apart. So we can take that 3 feet now, and we know we're only going 0.4 of 1 foot. So we can just take that 0.4 and multiply it by that 3 feet. And that would give us the same number as going through and you know, taking our slope over our 0.4, multiplying those. We would end up with the same number.
1.2.
Right. 1.2. Might have like a little bit more of a decimal on this one, but they end up being the same number. So you're going to measure your 1.2 feet away, and you're going to put your dot down here, and that's going to be for 719. Okay, and then we also need one over here for 720. So 720.2, we're only coming down 0.2, so you only need to multiply that 0.2 by that 3 feet. Give us a very, very small number.
0.6.
So you're just going to try your best to measure that 0.6 of a foot away from this corner. and those will be where the 720 contour continues through. So like we have it poking out right here, it's just going to go straight from that line around this corner and up to where that other line we drew was. So now we have all of our information and we can draw our contours. So we'll start with 721 because that is the highest contour that is in our swale. That is actually, that our swale is made up of. So I will start near the center of the contour line at the 721 contour, and I will keep my distance away from the center of the swale by at least 3 feet because that's going to maintain my minimum 3-to-1 cross slope. And then when I cross through my 721, of course, I'm going to get closer than 3 feet. I'm doing it very exaggerated right now. You want to go wider in the beginning because when you draw this 720 line, you have to maintain a minimum of 3 feet between them. But
Right.
you can get closer after you pass that 720, maintaining 3 feet. You're going to wrap around 721, and then you're going to kind of make a straight line to where we know 721 is crossing the slab. We'll continue where it pops out, do a straight line over to 721, curve it around, keep our distance, give it a little bit more space at 720, and hit 721. Okay. For 720, we'll start over here, come up, maintaining, you got to make sure you have 3 feet at least between the center and before that next contour. So you might have to redraw some lines a couple times. Curl around and hit that 720. And then we have these other 720 lines, our guide dots, right? We'll curve around those. And now we know where 720 is crossing the slope. We go through this, or the slab, sorry. We go through the slab, we come out, and we go to our other guide dots around this corner here, and then kind of, you can do a straighter line than that, to this 720 over here around the corner. You might have to space this out a little more. See how these, I might be getting closer than 3 feet here. And then just meet back up with that 720. 719, come up, hit the dot, around the corner, hit your other dots, straight over to this guy, where we have our other dot. My spacing is a little too tight. Make sure yours is better, right? Because you see, I might be getting too close right here. Might be getting too close right here. So I would need to adjust those lines, erase them and draw them again. Okay, and then we are getting a little too close to 718. Yours is probably going to space out a little bit more than mine did, so we're going to have to redraw a small section of 718. We'll go up to the top now, and we have 722. So we're going completely through 722. So the way to mark this is you got to keep your 3 feet minimum away from this contour line. Got to keep your 3 feet away from this contour line, and you can be safe in keeping 3 feet away from your high point of your swale. You just come over here, maintaining that distance. You can largely eyeball these as long as you're not going way over 3 feet and you're not getting within 3 feet. Once you draw a couple and you can kind of judge the distance of 3 feet, you have a little bit of leeway. You just redraw this 722 around the corner, maintaining that 3 foot spacing between that contour, and meeting back with 722. Now we're in the way of 723, so we'll have to redraw that just a little bit. Meets back with itself, and then we might have to do just a little bit of 724. Maybe even 725 on yours, depending on how far that spacing actually is. Mine might be, I eyeballed it. But that is basically what's going on. That's how those contours are going to end up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. go ahead and stop